The girl who fought the spirit. I was staying at my aunt's house in the village. It's a small place tucked deep into the African bush, far from the city. She always tells me stories about the village. I wasn't scared of the stories, but when I first arrived, something felt different. There was an odd feeling in the air that I couldn't explain, like something was watching me. It started on the third day of my stay. I had been walking back home from the river with a basket on my head, like I'd done many times before. The sun was setting, casting a soft, orange light over the dirt path. My aunt always warned me not to walk too far after sunset, but I had stayed longer than usual to gather firewood. As I walked, I noticed something strange. The birds had stopped singing. It was as if the whole forest had gone silent. I brushed it off, thinking maybe it was just the quiet of the evening. But then I heard footsteps behind me. Slow, heavy footsteps, like someone was following me, but when I turned around, there was no one there. I thought it was my mind playing tricks on me, so I kept walking. But the footsteps didn't stop. They were still there, growing closer, echoing in my ears. I quickened my pace, and so did the steps behind me. It wasn't the sound of someone walking normally. It was different, unnatural. The steps didn't match my own, like they were dragging along the ground. My heart started to race. I knew something wasn't right, but I didn't know what to do. The village was still a little way off. The path ahead looked long and dark. I turned around again, but once again, no one was there. I called out, thinking it was one of the villagers trying to scare me. "Who's there?" I asked, but my voice sounded small in the stillness. That's when I saw her. At the edge of the trees, just barely visible in the growing darkness, there was a girl. She stood there, staring at me with wide, unblinking eyes. I thought it was someone from the village at first, but something about her made me freeze. She was dressed in old, torn clothes, like something out of a forgotten time. Her hair was wild and tangled, and her skin was as pale as the moon. For a moment, I didn't move. I just stared at her. She didn't say anything. She just watched me. Then, she stepped forward. That's when I felt the real chill. It wasn't just cold air, it was a presence, something dark. I wanted to run, but I couldn't. My body was frozen, like something was holding me in place. The footsteps behind me grew louder, almost like they were right beside me now. I could feel the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. The girl started to walk toward me, slowly. I couldn't see her face clearly, but I could feel her eyes burning into me, even though they didn't blink. I finally found my voice, and I called out, "What do you want?" The girl didn't answer. Instead, she pointed at the ground in front of her, her finger trembling. I didn't understand what she meant, but something told me I shouldn't stay. I stepped back, but that's when the ground beneath me seemed to shift. The dirt cracked, and I heard a deep growl, no, not a growl, more like a low rumble, coming from beneath the earth. It was the sound of something old, something ancient. I didn't know what was happening, but I turned and ran. The footsteps followed me again, but this time they were faster, closer. I could feel the ground shaking beneath my feet. The village was near, but it felt so far. I looked back once, and I swear I saw the girl standing in the same spot, but now her face was twisted in a way that made my blood run cold. Her eyes were dark, almost black, and her mouth was stretched into a grin, showing sharp, pointed teeth. I didn't stop running until I reached my aunt's house. I was gasping for air, my chest heavy with fear. When I burst through the door, my aunt was sitting by the fire, her face calm as always. But when she saw the look on my face, she stopped whatever she was doing. "You saw her, didn't you?" she asked softly. I nodded, still shaking. Who was that girl? What was that thing following me? My aunt's face grew serious. "That girl is no normal person. She's a spirit, the spirit of a girl who was cursed long ago. Her story is old, passed down through generations. She was once a brave girl from this village, known for her strength and courage. But she made a terrible mistake. She angered the spirits by breaking a sacred rule. And for that, the spirits cursed her, trapping her in the forest for eternity. I felt a chill run through me. But why follow me? My aunt looked into the fire, her voice low. The spirits are looking for someone to take her place. They are watching, waiting for someone strong enough to face them, someone who will break the curse. That girl, the spirit, she picks the ones who are brave. She knows when someone is willing to fight. I shuddered, not sure whether to feel relieved or terrified. But I didn't do anything wrong. I just wanted to go home. My aunt nodded. It's not always about what you've done. Sometimes, the spirits test you. They'll try to scare you, make you doubt yourself. But if you stand firm, if you face them without fear, you can break the curse. That night, I didn't sleep. I couldn't. The image of the girl's face haunted me, and I could still hear those footsteps in my ears, echoing in the silence of the village. The next day, I told my aunt I wanted to leave, that I was afraid to stay any longer. She understood but said one thing I'll never forget: fear is what keeps the curse alive. Don't run from it. Face it, and you'll find your way home. I never saw the girl again after that night. I left the village shortly after, and as I walked away, I could almost feel the eyes of the spirit watching me. But I never looked back. And I never will.